Hello, everybody. Hello. King Mike D Games, thank you for stopping by the stream, my friend. How are you? Thank you. The new logo, yes, thank you very much. I had it commissioned through a gentleman on the website Fiverr, or Fever, however you want to pronounce it. How's the audio? For those of you in the chat, welcome. Thank you for stopping by today's live stream. Kind of an impromptu live stream, but for those of you in the chat, welcome. If you could do me a huge favor, like and share this stream out. I greatly appreciate that. And another thing, just kind of a little housekeeping items. How does the audio sound on the microphone versus the background music? Is the background music low enough, or is it too loud? Because I could definitely swing that down a little bit if it's too loud. Or kind of increase the mic. Move over here a little bit. The background music is perfect. Excellent. So, if you couldn't take from the title, today is part 2 to the film photography guide that I've been working on. The mic is a little cloudy sounding, but I can understand you. Okay, let's see here. Let's see. Okay. How about now? Does it sound a little better? It could be my voice also. I'm coming down with some bad allergies and things like that. Let's see. A lot better. Excellent. Awesome. Thank you very much, my friend. Thank you very much. So today is part 2 to the film photography guide that I've been wanting to create for the longest. I was going to make them standalone videos, but I figured with a live, I can answer questions if they're coming through the chat, kind of do some things off the cuff and whatnot, which I kind of flow a little bit better sometimes. The office does look a little different for those of you who are joining us again. The office has been updated. Spoiler alert. If you checked out my latest vlog, towards the very end, I did leave a sneak preview of what's to come. So the office has been 100% redone as far as my rig and my setup is concerned. Recently got some new items, did some new things to the office, so we'll definitely go into that later on in a full actual produced video, not in a live because I have to do a lot of camera angles and things like that. So, but if you can see behind me, there are some different curtains right there. These were a product of my wife picking these out, which I love them. They're blackout blinds, so they're pretty cool. Definitely helps keeping this office cool, especially here in Texas. The summers get very painfully hot, so having these blackout curtains definitely helps with that. But again, whoa, today's purpose is to kind of discuss two particular cameras that I have with me that are full 100% manual cameras for film photography. Two of them that I personally grew up shooting, whether it was just for personal use, whether it was for professional use, or whether it was for school use, photographing for my school newspaper, things like that. These two cameras, they're not my originals, but I did purchase them the soonest I could. They look cool. It looks like the sky at night. Yes, King Mike, yes sir. That was kind of the thing that my wife was going with and kind of wanting to do in the office. I like it, especially when the lights are out. It looks pretty cool. They look almost like they glow, but they just capture the reflection of the monitor and stuff like that. So it looks pretty cool. I just have the lights on right now for this live so you guys can see me. But yeah, so today I've got two full manual cameras and one honorable mention that I grew up shooting as well, and it was when film photography took a little turn to digital, and I'll make more sense of that here in a bit, but I'll show you. It's a Canon camera. Today we're going to look at two Canon cameras and one Pentax. Okay, so if you know your film photography and you've shot with film photography, you might know which two cameras I'm going to show you guys. They are definitely, I keep looking this way, they are definitely pinnacle cameras. They're very, very popular. They're popular for a reason. Their ease of use, so to speak, if you feel comfortable shooting manual. They're built like tanks, both of them. One of them specifically I can vouch for. It's actually been run over. Not this one again, but the one that I did use previously. It accidentally got run over and still worked completely 100% flawless. The old camera guy. I don't know. Perhaps. Don't be giving away my secrets. But we'll get to that. So, without further ado, we are going to start with the Canon camera. So the Canon camera that we're going to look at, again, a lot of individuals shot with this particular camera. I loved photographing with this. This particular one has the winder built into it. Okay, so just keep that in mind, that a lot of the cameras back in the day had very, very different options to purchase for helping you do different things. Winding, automatic winding, rewinding, okay? There are some older cameras that you have to manually rewind it. This actually was one of them, but it has an attachment that you can use, because one of these you had to pop open, go like this, and manually rewind the film back into the canister before you opened up the back, because you didn't want to ruin the film. Okay, so the very first one we're going to look at is the Canon AE1. Now, just quick glance, it could potentially pass for one of the newer like Olympus cameras, especially like the OEMs. When you put a battery grip, this kind of looks like a battery grip, right? This is technically the rewinder at the bottom. Okay, it goes off of batteries. Down at the bottom, it's got an off switch, and then it's got a continuous or a single. What you can do with this is also, when you photograph, instead of having to pull this little lever at the top right here to advance to the next shot, this thing will automatically do it for you. So you take the photo, it automatically goes to the next shot. Take the photo, so forth. So it's kind of automatic, if you will, in that sense. But again, you have the ability to do it either continuously or single shots. And then it'll also, once the film is done, will automatically rewind it for you. Now, what I have on there right now is one of the lenses that pretty much came as a kit with it, and that's the Canon 50mm FD mount, obviously. Now, the cool thing about film is that film is what you see is what you get in terms of millimeter. So as a 50mm lens, that's the viewpoint you're going to have. So this camera, I mean, it's built, like I said, like a tank. It produces, in my opinion, that great film style that we all have come to know and love, and what we try desperately to recreate with our digital cameras. You can purchase these from anywhere from $20, $30, sometimes cheaper, $10, $15, depending on the condition. This one is pretty pristine, not 100% perfect, but if you look on the back, no real scratches. The rewinder I actually purchased separately. See right here in the front. Other than being a little dusty, camera is in very good condition. No major dents, no major scratches. When I did repurchase it, it came with this little kind of retro looking strap, which a lot of people photographed back in the day with. Just a general, you know, basic strap. Currently, I don't have any film in here. This camera has been sitting over here on my shelf just kind of as a display. But I personally, and then see, you can hear it right there. So, you photograph, rewind, photograph, rewind. Oh, there it goes. Photograph. Let it go. Okay. Rewind. So forth. So, love that sound. There it goes. And the reason why it's taking a long time is because I actually have the lens cap on. Okay. So, that was camera number 1, the Canon AE1 program. Now, what's cool about this one is that it has a built-in, as you're looking through, it's got this little circle. Yes, classic, yes sir. So this has, in the center, if you've never photographed with some manual focus cameras, the way you do the focusing, it has almost like prisms. And so you look inside, and there's these 2 circles, and they will go like this to kind of see when you're in focus. And when they kind of align in the middle and everything looks intact, if you will, then that's when you fire off the shutter. And more often than not, and again with a lot of practice, you achieved what you were looking for, and you achieved a perfectly in focus lens. Now again, with all of these cameras and with manual cameras, the lenses are manual as well. So focus is manual, okay, as well as your f-stops. So there's a little icon, there's a little button on the side of the lens that as you push it, you can kind of hear the lens snapping. So let's see if the mic will pick it up. Okay, not sure if you heard that, but that is the aperture opening and closing on the lens itself. So again, a lot of this stuff took practice, and what we did not have the luxury of back in the day was almost unlimited shots. Okay, you either had, you know, 24 exposure, 36 exposure. If you shot medium format, sometimes you had 8, 10, 12 exposure. So, you know, you had to get that shot. And a lot of times when I photographed for school, photographing games, things like that, you had to plan everything out. You had to have the right ISO for the day, and if that changed, you had to work on the fly. So it was a lot more difficult to photograph back in the day with film and full manual cameras versus now, bust out the camera, fire, look down. They call it chimping. Look down. No, that's not what I want. Adjust. Or put it in full auto everything. Shoot, you know. So it really just does depend on how comfortable you feel. But I always recommend that if you're wanting to learn photography and you're wanting to learn the proper way of exposure, the exposure triangle, shutter, f-stop, ISO, then a manual film camera is the way to go. And that particular one is not going to disappoint. You will definitely get your money's worth, and you will definitely learn a lot with that particular camera. Now, moving on to the next camera that my buddy, the old camera guy, kind of alluded to. The next camera that I have is the Pentax K1000, right there. If it weren't for me first starting off in shooting with the Canon AE1, I'm almost 100% certain with you that I would have stuck with this bad boy right here, this Pentax. This Pentax has produced, I mean, it's hard to describe them both. It's kind of what I get when I'm asked the question of why do I photograph with Fuji cameras digitally versus, you know, going back to Canon. When I first got into major photography, when I bought my first major digital camera, it was the Canon 5D Mark II. The Mark I shot with and I photographed with for weddings, but it was always my my boss's camera, if you will, because I worked for other wedding firms as a second shooter. So, having photographed with the 5D Mark I or the 5D, I wanted to kind of take that next step with my photography. And around the time the 5D Mark II had almost just come out, and I wanted that video capabilities, which we all know that 5D Mark II kind of skyrocketed and launched DSLR photography, or videography if you will. So I went ahead, saved up all the money I could from a few gigs that I did, and shot with a Canon 5, or purchased a 5D Mark II, and that's kind of what started my photography firm. Having said that, though, as I mentioned, Canon will always have a special place in my heart because that's one of the first film photography cameras that I picked up. However, if the Canon was checked out and I couldn't photograph with the Canon AE1, the camera that was more often than not left behind but was just another option was this one, was the Pentax, okay? The Pentax K1000. I picked this bad boy up, and again, the quality of this body is pretty pristine for as old as this camera is, okay? I mean, this thing is, let me put it right here, ridiculously heavy, very well made, very massively dense. It is a very heavy camera. I could argue that this camera with a rewinder on it weighs almost as much as this bad boy right here, okay? There's the strap, and it looks just like a shoelace, the strap that it came with. I purchased this camera about 5 years ago. Was in one of my local Goodwills, and for those of you looking to collect film photography film cameras, go to your local Goodwill. Sometimes Salvation Army stores will have them, but it's been in my experience that the Salvation Army stores can get pricey, just in my opinion, in my surrounding areas. So I will usually go to Goodwill stores or thrift shops. Pawn shops I don't really like to mess with because just depending on who brought in the camera, and I know you're probably thinking, well, the Goodwill, they don't really, check out the camera, if you will. And that's true, but I do get a little bit better feeling when buying from Goodwill. I'm not too sure if that's just a personal thing. I've shopped there a lot for a lot of vintage things and hand-me-downs and things like that. But went into one of my local Goodwills, saw this behind the glass. Usually behind glass they kind of keep the better stuff, or the more pristine items, almost like new, things like that. They haven't really been beat up. So this bad boy was behind the glass case. I was already thinking they were going to overcharge me because lately film photography has been making kind of a comeback, if you will, with the Film's Not Dead movement and stuff like that. So I was already anticipating this camera's going to be $50, $60, $70, right? So, and especially with how good it looks. It still looks a little dirty. I didn't really clean it up. I didn't want to polish it. I wanted it to keep its patina, if you will. The lens still looks a little dirty. You can kind of see it right there. Looks a little dirty. But, going to the story. So I asked, finally got somebody to come and take a look with me. Told them, can I check out that camera? They pulled it out. Didn't have a price tag on it. Okay, so they were, the individual that was helping me was going to go look for a manager, things like that, because they wanted to get a price for me. So, waited a couple minutes. They finally came back to me that particular day, and if you shop at Goodwill, you'll know that depending on the sticker that's on your item, so sometimes they'll have like a green sticker, a red sticker, blue sticker, different colored stickers, little circular stickers, and they'll just put it on the item. This one, on the lens, happened to have a yellow sticker, a yellow circular sticker, right in the center of the lens. I was thinking maybe it was broken, I don't know, but I didn't really pay attention to it. So when they came back and told me, they're like, because it has the yellow sticker and we're going to sell it like we would any other film photography or film camera, we're going to sell the camera for $15. Sweet, it's awesome. But because it had the yellow sticker, that was automatically 50% off. Okay, so I was able to get this camera and this little strap that it had with it for $8. Okay, so for $8, for me to be able to purchase one of the cameras that holds a special place in my heart, and I was able to recreate some memories with this bad boy that I wouldn't have created, even for me, in my opinion, even with the most, whether it be Alien Skin, I think is one of the plugins, Visco, VSCO on iPhone, RNI, any of those apps that have the film looking things like that. This camera, in my opinion, creates beautiful, beautiful images. And again, because it's almost rangefinder-esque, I mean, to me, it was beautiful. So I bought it. It had an old roll of film. I had it developed. It had nothing on it. It was all expired. Everything was completely blown out. So I cleaned it up as best as I could on the inside, made sure there was no dust, inside the camera, and shot a couple rolls with it. And I kind of have it here with me, just hanging out on my shelf. And if at any time I feel like just shooting a roll of film, in my previous video, the part 1 to this series, I usually will take the the Nikon AF35 millimeter. But if I want a full manual feel and I'm just feeling that rangefinder style, this one will primarily go with me, only because the Canon is a little bit bigger. Yes, I know I can remove the rewinder and stuff like that, but this one I will almost certainly take with me and put in either a Ilford roll of film or a Kodak. I really like shooting Kodak 200 ISO on this camera. It produces some pretty amazing shots. And I have some in a binder that I'm going to probably start scanning. Again, if you've been here from the beginning of this live stream, I'm going to have a major video come out here in the next coming weeks about the transformation of my office. So I've moved around a lot of things. One of the things was my film scanner. I have a Epson V600 film scanner, and I still have to set that up. I have to figure out where I'm going to put it and things like that. So if you're new here, please consider subscribing and punching and smashing that bell icon so you'll know when I post that, so you guys can see my entire setup. And then from there we'll go on with scanning some of my my negatives. So again, this one, and in no way is this number 1, number 2. These are both my favorite cameras to film or to photograph with for film photography. And this lens also on here is in pretty decent shape. It's a Pentax lens as well. It's a 50 millimeter. I think it's in pretty decent shape. There is a few dust specks that are in the lens that I just can't get out. I know I can have it torn apart and kind of reconstructed, but I don't want to risk, damaging this. And then I could buy another lens and things like that. But I think when I photograph in black and white film, having that, scratches and a little bit of specks of dust adds to the flavor of the photo, if you will. So this one almost all the time goes with me if I'm looking to photograph manually, but occasionally I will take the AE1 Canon camera. Let me check the chat. Are there any questions, comments, anything like that? I have one last camera. This is an honorable mention, but we'll see. Are there any questions, anything in the chat? Anything that anybody wants to ask? Take a few minutes. Major score. The old camera guy. Major score. Yes, the Pentax camera. I could not believe I was walking away with it. I felt like I was stealing it practically. It was an amazing deal. And I would buy it tenfold over and over and over and over again if I knew I could get it for that cheap. Really, seriously. If you ever find a Pentax, which Ilford stock do you like best? I don't know. Where's my rolls? I don't have any of my rolls with me here. It's kind of... Which one's one of the last rolls I recently bought? Because I do like the is it the super which one is it? The one that's C41 processed. That one I will shoot with if I'm wanting my local lab or myself to develop. I used to develop my own film, but it just became a hassle, especially when we moved. It just became a major pain for me to develop it here at home, to have my own darkroom and whatnot. So I stopped doing that. Here it is, Super 400. The XP2 Super 400 is the one that I believe you can get in C41 processing, which is just like color film. So it's, you're allowed to at least like I said, at my local lab, have it developed usually within 12 to 15 hours. So if I turn it in early in the morning, sometimes I can get it by the end of the day. And again, the local lab that I use here, they charge me $3 to develop and provide the cut negatives. So $3 a roll, can't really bypass that. But after that, I mean, I'm not a huge big fan of the HP5. I will shoot FP4 quite a bit, just depending, like I said, what I'm going to, how I'm going to develop it. If I shoot at night, and I really just, I'm gonna run through a few rolls of film at night, I love the Delta 3200. Delta 3200, in my opinion, is pretty sweet film stock for photographing at night. So if I know I'm gonna go out and photograph at night, I will definitely shoot one of those rolls. I'll definitely usually have a couple of those rolls in my fridge, just ready at the at the go in case I do want to photograph at night. I'll usually film with the or photograph with the Delta 3200. Great question. Get a drink here. Alrighty, so again, great question, old camera guy. Greatly appreciate the question. If there's anybody new here in the chat, welcome. Thank you for stopping by. We are now 30 minutes into this live stream. We'll probably only be on probably another 10 minutes or so, unless there's other questions or anybody shows back up or shows into the stream. If you're new here, consider subscribing. Please do me a huge favor, like and share this stream out. Let's see how many people we can get in here concurrently. So the honorable mention camera that I have doesn't pertain to the title that I have, which is full manual cameras, but I thought it would be nice to show it, because there will be some people who think that shooting manually is a little intimidating, if you will. They don't want to. It's not that they don't want to, but they just, it's off-putting to potentially mess up a shot. And again, with film not being super cheap, I mean, let me pull it up. If you go to Amazon right now and you just look up, even like Ilford, if you look up Ilford film stock, go to Amazon and go to Ilford film. 5 rolls of HP5 Ilford plus 400 speed, $33. Okay, $33 for 5 rolls, 36 exposures. So each one is 36 exposures. So you are going to end up with, what is that? What's 36 times 5? You're going to end up with 100 and what? 36 times 5. 180 shots. Okay. Depending on what camera you shoot with now and the size of memory card you put in, you put a 32 gigabyte memory card in a Fuji camera, you can get, almost 1,000 shots, depending on what you're filming or what you're photographing. So the point to my story is that, or my point is that a lot of people may not feel comfortable photographing with a full manual camera, right? So usually what I'll recommend, for even when people are wanting to shoot digital, what do you think the first camera a lot of people, if they wanted to shoot and they're going to go Canon, even Nikon has like the D3200s, 42, those, I'm dating myself saying 3200, 3100, those cameras are old. But you get my drift. Usually individuals will recommend that, or they'll recommend what? Canon Rebels, right? T2i, I think I don't know what they're at right now, if they're at T5i, T6i, T8, whatever. They're at a T something, Ti, right? So, for film, one of the cameras that I got when I graduated high school a little bit after is, and this was, I didn't want to point and shoot, I wanted manual lenses, I wanted to be able to focus, I wanted to be able to blur the background, I wanted to, do all of that good stuff, but still shoot film. Okay, I was very stubborn when digital came out. I did not want to switch to digital, so I wanted to take film forever, right? So one of the cameras that I got, and I got it at my local Target, and I'll never forget, it was there, and I was like, you know what, I was right out of high school, I was working, going to college and whatnot, and I saw the camera, and I saw these digital cameras, you know, 3, 4, 5 megapixel cameras, 2 megapixels sometimes, little point and shoot, some DSLRs, if you will. But then I saw this one at the very, very end, and it was film, one of the last film cameras that major box stores offered. And the camera is an EOS style. I'll show you right here. Right? So it's an EOS, and it is the Canon Rebel K2. You can kind of see it right there. It's kind of hard, but this camera, right now it's dead. It's missing one of the, or it's dead on batteries. The only thing I don't like about this particular camera is the fact that it does use kind of an awkward battery, and it uses 2 of them, mind you, are these CR2 batteries, these little short, chunky batteries, and again, it uses 2 of them. So my local drugstores, Walgreens, CVS, Crawford, and whatnot, are in the money, so to speak, if you find any, or if they have any film photographers in their area, because these batteries can get quite expensive. Sometimes a 2-pack runs about $8, $9. Now they're lithium, so they'll last a while, but a lot of times with film cameras, or these digital film cameras, if you will, because it's got a digital back, and it has the ISO outread, the exposure, you know, different functions, multiple shots, multiple exposures, things like that. You can almost do like exposure compensation like you would on a digital camera. You can essentially do something like that with this. Now, this isn't the lens that it came with. Normally it comes with, I think, and I think I have it somewhere over there on my shelf. Usually it comes with an 18 to 55 typically. Even, you know, current digital cameras will come with that. This camera came with something almost like that. But I got rid of that one, and I slapped on the 40mm, and this one came out, I'd say about 5 years ago, I would think, the Canon 40mm Pancake. It's an autofocus lens. It also has the ability to obviously go in manual focus, but it has autofocus on here as well. Now this camera is great, as I mentioned. It's just like the point and shoot, if you will, except you want to blur the background, you want some bokeh, or bokeh, however you want to say it, and you just want to have that nice creamy background, but you want to still shoot film. You just kind of want to set it and forget it, if you will. It's got the major modes. Now, the reason why I was saying this one's an honorable mention is because it does have, I'm not sure if you can see it there, it does have a full manual mode. And what that means is that you would set everything. You would set your aperture, you would set your exposure from the lens itself, obviously. And then, of course, the ISO is pretty much going to be set by the film speed you get, but you can always push or pull your film, right, and kind of get a very artistic look on your film. So this camera I don't use a whole lot, but this is an option for those of you who are wanting to step into film, don't really want a full manual camera, but you're wanting to step into that role, step into film, and don't really want to risk always wondering if you got the shot, or if the shot is blurry, since it does have autofocus, and you kind of want to make sure, yeah, I got the shot. This one does have a built-in flash, but it also has a hot shoe that you can attach an external flash, so that's cool. Could do some flash bouncing, things like that. Put a snoot on it and get some real artistic shots. But I thought this was an honorable mention camera because of the fact that it does give you that film look still, with the kind of fail-safe of a digital back, if you will, so you can kind of set everything and forget it, and it has autofocus. So that essentially will conclude the cameras that I recommend and I have with regards to shooting full manual for 35mm film photography. So, Canon's Rebel series are underrated. I've got a Rebel G and Rebel T2 lightweight, especially with that 45mm pancake lens, and very capable. Couldn't have said it any better, my friend. Could not have said that any better. These cameras, I think, are underrated. I think I mean, like I said, throw in a really good roll of film, depending on what you're going for. Like I said earlier, if I shoot at night, I'll throw in a 3200 Ilford Delta. Or some of the stock that I've shot recently and I haven't developed yet is the Cine Still, which can produce some very, very cinematic style images. So I'm excited to see what some of that stock comes out of when I develop it or have it developed. And I'm interested in shooting one of those with this camera in particular, so that way I can just worry about composition more than I do have to worry about my exposure and things like that. But yeah, definitely with that pancake lens on this bad boy, very lightweight, very capable, able to move fluidly, especially if I am downtown. I do a lot of street photography, so if I'm downtown here in my city, that is a great camera to keep with me. Great little camera. Are there any other questions, comments, jokes, any film stories you'd care to share? I've been photographing with film, like I said, since I was, I would say, middle school, which would have put me at 1995. So 20 plus years. I'm 37. Kind of dating myself here. But I did start with film. Had to develop my own. Haven't walked around a darkroom in a while, but almost like riding a bike, I would practice on a dummy roll first. I know they have those dark bags you can kind of put your hands in on the side like this and kind of put, the film on the canister, on the roll, things like that. But I haven't done that at all, especially with how cheap my local lab can be. I mean, $3, and I don't have to worry about the chemicals and the storage of it and dedicating it. Yeah, it's sometimes a no-brainer for me to just have my local lab do it. For those of you in the chat, I will say it again. Thank you so much for stopping by. I greatly appreciate each and every one of you. Hopefully, I'm able to do a live at least once a week. I'm going to try to decide on what particular day. I'm aiming probably for Saturdays, potentially Fridays. My work schedule is about to change, and I might be getting every Friday off for at least June and July. So if I'm able to standardize the days that I come on, I'm going to maybe shoot for Friday in the summers, but if not, potentially Saturdays. I'm just toying with the time. Depending on who's on, if they're from across the pond, I may have to change the time, to maybe be around noon. But if not, if people are in the States, usually a good, decent time in the afternoon or early evening is about 6 or 7. Because if anybody lives on the East Coast, 7 o'clock is 8 o'clock, because I'm in Central Standard Time, being from Texas. And then as I go backwards, if I do it at 7, then it's either 6 or 5, depending on if they are in Mountain Time or in Pacific Time. So, but I'm still toying with that. King Mike, he was in here earlier. King Mike D Games. Definitely, if you see him in the chat, definitely check his channel out. If you are into any type of gaming content, he is the man. He is awesome. Definitely check his channel out and support my guy there. He is awesome. The old camera guy, I'm going to head to your channel once I am done here. Going to check you out, see how your channel is. And again, for those of you who are new here, please consider subscribing, smashing that bell icon so you're notified when we do any kind of activity here on the YouTubes. Great cameras. Thanks for streaming this. Yes, sir. Anytime. Greatly appreciate you stopping on by. Glad to talk to another film head, if you will. I'm interested in still, resurrecting some old things. One of the potential lives that I might do is I found my old mini DV camcorder that I have decked out with an external Sennheiser mic, a wide-angle lens. It's a Canon HV30. For anybody who has shot with mini DV cameras or even just regular DV cams with the bigger cassettes, it's kind of a pain to get the footage, but it gives you that nostalgic look that no matter how much we want to film with digital, sometimes some digital cameras can be too digital, and filming with film cannot be reproduced with a filter sometimes, or with what's the word I'm looking for? It escapes me. Well, just like putting something in Photoshop, a preset. There it is. Any kind of preset from Photoshop or Lightroom, where you're running action on it, and it gives it the film look, adding grain. Just something about photographing black and white film with a high ISO and giving that deep grain on an image, to me, is just cannot be reproduced. No matter how much you try, can't reproduce that thing. So I'm looking to potentially do another series on my camcorder and some of the results that I've gotten from that thing. I did a live back about a couple months ago, and there was some pretty interested folks. So again, if you are new to the channel or are currently in the chat, consider subscribing, punching the bell icon so you're notified each and every time we go live or do something on this channel. If there are no questions or anything else, I will bid you adieu. Thank each and every one of you for stopping on by. I greatly appreciate it. Once again, guys, this is Jose Ortiz from PetRockMedia.com, and I will catch you guys in the next live. All right? Peace.